Yo, fourth video of the day. So the last one was the ground rules for what's going to be the project. And as I said, it's a big project. And the trouble with big projects is to know where to start. And I had an idea where to start, so I thought, make the video now before you change your mind. Because it half falls into ground rules and it half falls into the start of what we're going to talk about. Basically, it's one of these mental math things that if you can't get this, you might as well drop out straight away, sort of thing. And it's the reason I've left some room at the side of my head on this one, because I'm going to do this sort of thing. Okay. First thing I thought, we'll need a character to always refer to and a situation always to refer to. We have I can't even remember his name, the one in the film, The Silence of the Lambs. We'll drop him because that's a movie and that will confuse people. If we chose Jeffrey Dahmer, that would confuse people because people would go to Wikipedia and look at his life and find that facts were wrong. So we need a hypothetical person. So I thought Jeffrey, and then I decided I don't like the word Jeffrey, the name Jeffrey, so came up with Joe. Okay. Jane, if you prefer. If comments, it doesn't matter, does it? Joe. Right. So hypothetically, Joe is about to do something silly. So far so good? Joe is about to do something silly. We've cut through the tomato, the sausage of Joe's life, floof, through it, right? You got that? We've cut through to it, and we're just before we look on this side and we go, this is the future. We're looking at it and go, oh Joe, you did it. And here we're going, if we look at this and project this forward, I think you're going to do something silly, Joe. And look at this side, yeah, there you go. Okay? We're right at the point where Joe does something silly. So I think that's easy enough. So if you can imagine a line, a horizontal line going from here to here, right across the screen. Here, there is where we've cut through the timeline. Poof, that was the Joe time sausage, where looking on the future side, Joe is about to do something silly. And if you were clever enough and look in this side, you could see the projection and see that Joe's going to do something silly. Right. Now, it's a long line because what we're going to do here is cut, because we cut there for the silliness. Now we're going to cut here. Where, and hopefully you can agree, because it's my bloody story anyway, that if Joe's father had said something, whatever it is, hypothetical, to Joe at this point, Joe would not do the silly thing that Joe's about to do. But Joe's father here didn't say that thing to Joe. So Joe is going to do something silly here. You got it? It's not tricky, is it? No. Joe's father didn't tell Joe the thing he should have told Joe, if he didn't know at the time, of course, if it was going to cause, that would have caused Joe to not do the silly thing, because at this time, cut through, how many are we going to do? Let's cut through here, about just that side of the middle, because Joe's father didn't tell Joe's father something that would have caused Joe's father to tell Joe not to do this silly thing, which would have stopped Joe. So Joe's father didn't tell Joe because his father here didn't tell him. And Joe's grandfather didn't tell Joe's father because Joe's great-grandfather here didn't tell Joe's grandfather here, so Joe's grandfather here didn't tell Joe's father here, so Joe's father didn't tell Joe not to do something silly, which he's going to do here. And this is, did you ever have a slide rule? Maybe that is a bit old-fashioned. You can slide this backwards and forwards. This is your cause and effect. All of them determined what they're going to do, but moments of their lives, Joe's going to do something silly because Joe's dad didn't tell him, because Joe's dad's dad didn't tell Joe's dad that it's a good idea. He didn't do something that would have told Joe's dad to tell your son not to do that sort of silliness. And he didn't because his father didn't say something to him here. And that whole thing, you can move this way and that. Yes, so many things are happening. So many things are being said. So many things are being done. But they're all on this deterministic guideline. So we're already in the comments, I've noticed, we've got, well, if it's all deterministic, there's no point doing anything, and all this sort of nonsense. You've got to understand that things are done. Things do influence things on this timeline. Now, if you can't understand that, things will be done deterministically. The way, let's say, Joe behaves isn't completely deterministically caused by the way Joe's dad treated him. A trillion other things are in there. But one of the causes is that Joe's dad didn't tell him something here. It's all part of the story, okay? If he had, Joe would not be doing this silly thing. But Joe's dad was never going to do that because his dad didn't do this to him here. And his dad didn't do that to Joe's dad here because his dad didn't do that to him here. All these influences are cause and effect determinism, and fit very happily with you should tell your son this here so he doesn't do this here. But you won't do this here if you haven't been programmed correctly to do this here. And then it goes back, and if you weren't programmed correctly, why weren't you programmed correctly? Because the person, whatever it is, the incident to program you correctly, wasn't programmed correctly here. Why wasn't that done? Because it wasn't programmed correctly here, it wasn't programmed correctly here, and it wasn't programmed correctly there. Pull the timeline forward thousands of years, because this wasn't done here at the time of the Great Pyramid. Pull this time here, you can go into the trees and apes and right to the start of time. Have you got it? You can pull it all the way through like this and cut it where you like. And all these things work like that. And if you can't understand that concept and how you can pull that into the future, you can say, I'd just be repeating myself. If you can't understand that kind of idea, and I totally accept that it can be explained better, but if you can't understand this, then you're not going to understand where we're going in the project. Things happen because of things that happened in the past. Things that are happening now will affect the future. They're all on this timeline. You can pull it this way and you can pull it that way, and you can chop it any way you like. Do you understand? The yes buts that come up, try and keep them short, try and keep them nice and reasonable, and put them in comments, and we'll see if we can get to them. Or I'll see if I can get to them in a reasonable way. But what I've just explained, I'll accept that I might not have explained it well. But if you can't understand that, or you want to yes but that, I can't imagine what your yes buts are, because it's all there. But if you've got them, let's have a go. Let's start nutting it out. Comments.